I read 19 books in the first 3 months of this year, so let's briefly talk about all 19 of them. In January, I read 3 books, and here are my stats for all 3 of them. The first one, starting the year off with a bang, was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. In this book, we are following the friendship and the life of 3 friends who are developing video games together in the 80s, so before video games are what they are currently. It spans through many years, which is something that I love in books. I love seeing the evolution of characters and story and what's happening to them. Maybe because I'm a nosy person, so I enjoy those kind of things. This is so good. This is so good. It was so famous last year on YouTube and on BookTok and on Instagram and everywhere. Everyone was reading it and most people were loving it. I was very skeptical in the beginning because, you know, video games, not my kind of thing, but I gave it a try. I regret not even one bit. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. This is one of my all-time favorite books, and I can already not wait to reread it one day just because the story was so good. It had a bit of everything: action, drama, friendship, love, tears, everything. Everything is in here. Everything that you could possibly want from a book, this has it. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is a romance book. So good as well. So good. This was a 4-star for me, and here we are following the story of a girl who moves into her deceased aunt's apartment, and in that apartment there is a guy who's living there, but they are not living in the same timeline. The guy is living 7 years before her. Obviously they start falling in love. That's not a spoiler because you start reading this book, you already know that's what's gonna happen, but they have that particularity of being 7 years apart from each other. They can only see each other inside the apartment because when she leaves she goes back to the current day, but she's not always in the 7 year before. Sometimes she's in the apartment and she's in the current day, so it has a little bit of randomness which matches my trademark perfectly because I do love me some random things. It's so good. Yay! This is short. This is a short book. If you are gonna take any recommendation from me from this video, try this one. It's small. You see this one? You should definitely read this one, but you see, much bigger. You would have to compromise much more for that. For this one, you know, just a couple of hours and you'll know about this book, and it's amazing. Yay! Read it! And then, because not everything can be amazing, I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is book number 1 of the Chestnut Spring series. Another very popular, everyone loves it series. Oh my, I did not like this book at all. I give it 3 stars because the romance is still cute, but it's very graphic, dirty, it's weird. It has a little bit of romance which I liked, and that's why it's a 3-star and not a 2, but I did not like the intensity of this book, and I think, as I've been reading, that I'm more of a closed doors romance gal. The door is wide open. There's no door. There's no door in this book. If you like that kind of explicit content, I mean, everyone loves it, but just know that I gave this one a 3 stars and I found it very intense, very dirty, and not at all my jam. In February, I was killing it. In February, I read 9 books. Who is she? Bear in mind, I had been in a reading slump forever. We're not here to talk about that, so let's move on. First book that I read in February, it was Drowning by T.J. Newman. I read this as part of a vlog. Oh, should I mention the videos that I'm reading things off? So this one, there's no vlog on the channel, I don't think so. And these 2 are part of the same vlog, episode X, I don't remember the number, of Inside the Tea Goes On, where we were reading popular books from last year, so I read those 2. This one was part of the vlog where I read books by authors named with the same name as my son. This is set on a plane. It's the second book of this author, and she is a former flight attendant. So in terms of plane knowledge and descriptions, very accurate. As a flight attendant myself, this is the true jam. This is accurate. On this one, we are following a plane that has dual engine failure straight away after taking off and ditches, which means lands in the water. Although I never know why they call it a landing, because it's more a crash in the water and not a landing. Anyway, the plane then drowns and is stuck at the bottom of the ocean, and there's a few passengers stuck on the inside of that plane. So the whole book is about the rescuing of this flight, which even says somewhere, the rescue of flight 1421. There's teams on the ground trying to find a better solution to get the people out of that plane before either the plane fills up with water or they run out of oxygen inside the plane. Dun, dun, dun. Very intense, very high pace, very if you like heavy things that make you be scared of flying, then read that one. And then, not related at all, but with the cover that is related to the subject of that book, we have this gorgeous one, In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros, popular author of Fourth Wing, which I despise. This book, on the other hand, solid 4 stars. So I give 4 stars to the previous one as well. This one solid 4 stars. It's a romance story. The reason why it's not a 5 stars, because I really enjoyed the romance in here. It's a second chance romance, which I don't tend to like, and I don't know if this is a second chance because they never had this first chance. They met each other and they had like something going on, but they never kissed or they were never together, anything. So instead of a second chance, it's more like a 1.5 chance. The romance, 5 stars. Loved it. The chemistry between them, loved everything about it. The throwbacks to the past on how they met and their story was so cute. They met on a plane. Very, very cute. But then nowadays they are in Afghanistan. She's like a counselor or something for the government, and the guy is in the military and is tasked to protect her, which is very cute. But there's a lot of conversations about politics, and her sister is somehow involved in politics. I'm not gonna lie, I skimmed a bit through all the politics conversations because I hate it. I don't like politics, I don't care about it. So I was here for the romance. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but if it was not as much focused on that as it was on the romance, then it would have been a 5 stars. But this cover, I mean, don't you want to have this book on your shelves? Regardless if the book is good or not, don't you want to have it? Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. And looking at my notes, I gave this a 4 star. I am now questioning my choice because I don't remember anything about this. Okay, I remember a little bit, but not enough to say this is a 4 star. I think this was more realistically a 3 stars, but I'm gonna remain true to what I said when I first read it, and so this is a 4 stars. This is a thriller and it's set on an island. This couple just got married and I think they go there on their honeymoon, and it's like a mega millionaire island, but at the same time it's not the kind of honeymoon that you want, and the lady is not feeling it. She keeps saying it over and over again that this is not the kind of honeymoon that I pictured. The weather was not even that nice. Like, wouldn't you prefer to be in Bora Bora? Anyway, there's obviously lots of secrets, a lot of millionaires in this island, and the staff is onto something, and at some point it was giving me the chills. I was listening to this audiobook at night. Everything in the house was dark and I was getting freaked out. So I stopped for a bit, but then I had to continue because I was so curious to know what was gonna happen. So this is a 3 star, 4 stars, you know? If you like thrillers, you'll enjoy it. I don't remember if it had a massive plot twist, to be honest. I don't think so. I think this one was more the atmosphere. It was giving. I was having chills and goosebumps. Then I read a non-fiction. When do I ever read non-fiction? Never. But this is The Other Mother by Jen Brister. Now this is an ARC copy, and I don't know what the actual cover looks like, but I can put it here if you want. I had this on my shelves for a while. However, I think that if I had read this before becoming a mom, I wouldn't have enjoyed it nearly as much as I did. This is a 4 star. Wow. It had me giggle. Proper giggle. Laugh out loud in bed next to Josh, driving him crazy. It was amazing. It's not a 5 because it's like divided in sections, I think, and not all of them had that effect in me. They were all very good, but the ones that I truly related to was like 1, maybe 2, but still enough to make this a 4 star. And like, this was so good. It was so relatable if you are a mother and if you have young kids and you struggle with the sleep deprivedness, the house being a messy, the fact that no one really cares about you and that people all just care about your kids, which is fine. But there are so many relatable stories here, and this author, Jen Brister, she's a comedian, so you know this is gonna be fun. And this is also my exact kind of humor. Obviously, if you find other things funny, you might not find this as funny, but this is the kind of silly, a little bit insulting humor that I appreciate, so I really enjoyed this. Other People's Secrets. This was a DNF. I think we were following 2 families and they were going on holidays, and then one of the wives had a secret and she was telling the other wife, something like that. And I was curious to know what this secret was. I never got to find out because I DNF'd it before, but that was all I was curious about. The writing was very like rules and rules and rules. Nothing really was happening, so very boring. Do not recommend. And also discover Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is the first book in a series of the Twisted series. Very popular as well. In this one, we are following the trope of brother's best friend. So the brother moves away, and he used to be living next door to his younger sister. He moves away to go to university, I believe, and he asks his best friend, which is this bad guy who doesn't really have any feelings, doesn't like anyone, to move to his apartment so he can keep an eye on his younger sister. Let me say that I hate this trope. I hate the trope of the young, fragile girl that needs to be looked after and protected against all costs. Hate it. Can we please stop writing about it? But once I forget that the story was about that, and then once the relationship starts evolving, and then there's some other details happening here, some more twists and everything that I wasn't expecting the story to be about, then it got a bit intense, and then it got really good. So once I get over the first hiccups of the story and the fact that it's following a thing that I don't appreciate, 4 stars. Wow. And I haven't read anything else from that series, but I totally intend to. Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, another book for the vlog of authors by the same name as my son. I don't have it because I read the library copy. I was so excited. It was my second chance at TJ Klune. The first one I gave it a DNF. This time I was really enjoying the book. all the way until like half of it, actively enjoying the book and having my fun with it. But then it starts dragging and dragging and dragging, and by the end of it I was so bored. It dragged so much that I no longer cared about what was happening to these characters. But basically we are following this character that is stuck in the in-between, even though they don't really call it the in-between, but he died, and they are trying to help him process the fact that he died and helping him want to cross the door, which will then go into we don't know what's beyond. And I enjoyed that concept because obviously we don't know what's happened after. So I enjoyed the fact that in the book, the characters didn't know what was beyond that door either. The descriptions were making this house easy to picture, and I really enjoyed that. The main character, Wallace, I was also really enjoying him because he was this arrogant son of a bitch. Didn't really care about anyone. And you can see the evolution of his character while he's in this in-between. But like I said, around halfway point, it dragged and dragged and dragged. Ended up being a 3 stars for me. I cannot say that I recommend it, even though I do know that this book has a lot of fans out there. So does TJ Klune in general. His books attract a lot of people. So even though I'm not gonna recommend it because I thought it dragged a bit too much, I know it has a wide following. Most people will probably appreciate this book more than I did. The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin, same author of Tomorrow, 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 Tomorrow. I love this book so much as well. This is another 5 stars. There's a movie about this. Did you know? Because I feel like most people don't know. Most people don't know this book exists because it's older. It was written before the Tomorrow, 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 Tomorrow. But now it's been re-edited to match the book because that's what publishers do. When one book gets really popular, of course, they're gonna make buck out of the things that are already available. It's so good. I really enjoyed the movie. I cried. It spans through many years as well. Another thing, you know, I love it. We're following the story of A.J. Fikry, who owns a small independent bookstore in a tiny island. One day he loses this book that was very precious, not because he loved the book, he hated it, but because the book was very expensive. So he was planning on one day retiring out of the profits of selling said book. The book disappears, and in its place what shows up? A girl, a baby girl. So he decides to adopt the baby girl, and he was very inept, very unready to become a dad, but he did his best. And oh, did he succeed? Yes, he did. It's so good. I really like A.J. Fikry. Again, short book. If you're gonna read anything from this, read this book. Yes. And then the last book I read in February, I listened to the audiobook, still for the TJ vlog. It's called Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. We are following a pastry chef. The kitchen gets like a new manager and they decide to start doing videos for YouTube. More characters come in. One of the characters is non-binary. Once that has been revealed, the story kind of becomes about it. Even though I will say this one didn't do that too much, but still a little bit, which still, not my thing. 3 stars, not remarkable. Not gonna lose much time talking about this because, you know, not remarkable. Let's move on to March. In March, I read 7 books. Starting with The Lucky Escape by Laura Jane Williams. 3 stars. What do I remember about this book? Oh, it was One Cancelled Wedding, One Unexpected Honeymoon. I remember I bought this back in the day because I thought it was gonna be similar vibes to The Unhoneymooners, but The Unhoneymooners does it much better than this one. So even though there's nothing actively wrong with it, I don't remember the details anymore, and that's the best way of explaining why this is a 3 stars, is because back then I enjoyed it, but I knew as I was reading it that nothing here was gonna stick with me. I do remember one thing about this book, which is her and her old friend go on her own honeymoon because I think, yeah, her husband just left her. I don't think he cheated on her, did he? But he left her just on the morning off. So she decides to go on the honeymoon that was paid by his parents? Question mark, question mark, question mark. But she takes his old friend. What I'm trying to say is that they go to Australia. They do the non-stop Qantas flight from London to Australia, which is the flight that I operate. Does that change anything for the story? Absolutely not, because it's literally one line in the book. Next up, I read Stolen by Leslie Pierce. I was disappointed by this book, mainly because I was expecting it to be closer to the other Leslie books that I read back in the day. And they were about girl in like old school, like early 1900s, and how her life was always so difficult and she was always such a victim, but then it follows her through many years and she becomes a successful person. She makes do of her own misery, and I like that kind of narrative. Back then I was getting a little bit fed up of it because all her books were following the same structure. But now it's been a few years, so I was expecting and I was excited to dive back into the familiarity that that narrative brought me. However, this was nothing at all like that. This was a mystery set in a normal time span, like a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and it was set in nowadays, like current days, early 2000s, I think. Not at all what I was expecting. The mystery was good, I was interested, but for what it is, it's a very long book. This ended up being a 3 stars for me. The Woman Who Took a Chance by Fiona Gibson. 2 stars. You know, March wasn't a great reading month, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't. It wasn't. This was following a 50-year-old flight attendant who got made redundant after her airline has gone bust. She then decides to take her newfound free time and start online dating to meet the love of her life. She has a daughter that she had with her best friend when they were teenagers. It was an accident, but they decided to remain friends and to raise the daughter together, and to this day they are still friends. Now, when I say this, can you guess what's going to happen with her online dating experience? I'm just going to spoil it because you're not going to read this. This is a random book that I picked up. No one ever talks about this. You are not going to read it. But basically she goes on to all these dates, some better than others, some last a bit longer in terms of like she actually dates the person for a little bit longer. But then at the end, she realizes that the love of her life is the father of her daughter because, you know, they're best friends. Moving on, Your Place or Mine by Portia McIntosh. Another silly romance that has nothing remarkable about it, so it's a 3-star. Bruh. And we are following someone goes traveling. I'm reading the synopsis because, you know, not remarkable. Like a couple goes travel, so the woman in that couple asks one of her friends to house sit. What she didn't know is that her husband also asked one of his friends to house sit. So now there's this woman and this man house sitting together in this house. Is this hate to love? I don't know, because they didn't know each other before this. But when they meet each other at the house, they don't like each other. So does that count as hate to love? But they are very opposite. She's dating an idiot and eventually she realizes that and breaks up with him. And this other guy, Ziggy, kind of helps her get back at the guy, even though she was not particularly looking for revenge. I'm not making it any justice. The book is slightly better than what I'm making it sound. I hate talking bad about books because, you know, it's not like I could ever write something better. I could never. So I don't like trash talking books too much, unless the book is actively bad, because I couldn't do better myself. So let's just move on to the next one, which is not that great either. This is The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Back in the day, I used to devour their books and love them. It's been a while since I read one, and then I picked this one up. 2 stars though. We're following a therapist that lost her license, but she's still working with couples to help them fix their marriage. Then there are secrets, then everyone's lying, then you don't know who you can trust, then you don't know if you can trust the narrator. It's a bit intense, but a bit too intense, or maybe I was just not in the mood for this kind of story. I didn't like it. It had a couple of good twists towards the end, but they didn't make it worthwhile for me personally. So let's move on, because like I said, I don't want to trash talk about books. Then I read Heartless by Elsie Silver, book number 2 in the Chestnut Spring series. When I first read this book, remember the other one, I gave it 3 stars and I said it's very dirty, I don't understand it. No. When I first read this one, I gave it 5 stars. And I was like, fine, I get it. I think that's literally what my Goodreads review says about this book. I then lowered it a little bit for a 4 stars because even though I really enjoyed it, a 5 stars consists in one of my all-time favorite books, and I don't think this is that. But I had an amazing time with it. It was so good. It was so good. I listened to the audiobook of this while we were on vacation. I started on the plane there. I finished 2/3 of this book in one sitting, just with the audiobook, in bed from like 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. or something. I was just laying in bed, listening to the audiobook, not doing anything, just listening, and I didn't fall asleep. So that must tell you something about this book. We are following Kate Eaton, that piece of a man, and the babysitter that he hires to look after his son because he's a single dad. So we're following the tropes, single dad, and nanny love. It's still very explicit. There is a door on this one. Remember how I said the other one there is not even a door there? This one has a door. It's wide open though. A little bit less dirty, but still very dirty. It's still not my cup of tea in terms of that, because I think I prefer the door, but it's got slightly better, and it definitely made me curious to continue reading the rest of the series, even though this is the book that has the highest rating in the whole series. And I get it. I get it. This is so good. Read the first one. But then when you finish it and you're like, oh my god, what did I just finish reading? Remember this moment and move on to this one, because it's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. Last book of the March, The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, the same author of The 7-Year Slip, which I loved, but this one, 3 stars. I said March was not a great reading month for me. On this one, we are following a girl who speaks to the dead and sees their ghosts, but sometimes she doesn't even realize they're ghosts because she sees them as normal, not as see-through, until other people in conversations she realizes they are not seeing the person that she's seeing, and why that other person must be dead. Her father died. She goes back home for the first time in many years for the funeral, and her family owns a funeral house. Obviously she wants to see the ghost of her dad so she can speak with him and spend some more time with him before he crosses. This is nice, but I couldn't really get over the fact that it was a romance story and her love interest was dead and it was a ghost. I had a hard time getting over that detail. But if you do get over that detail, then, you know, it's cute. But I also felt like it dragged a little bit. Those were all the 19 books that I read in 2024 so far. I feel very productive. I feel, yes, there is quite a few 5-star books here and a lot of high 4s as well. It's making my reading slump go away that I've been in for over a year. And it's making me enjoy reading again, and it's making me enjoy doing reading vlogs and crazy reading experiments again. Even though I never really stopped loving those, I wasn't loving reading, so I didn't really know how to do those vlogs because I needed to read for them. But now we're back and we're good and we're enjoying life. Let me know if you've read any of these. I'm pointing here because that's where the pile is, and like, look how unstable this is. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you are going to after you heard me talking about this. And after you're done watching this video, YouTube thinks you are gonna enjoy this one right here. So click and watch the one next, and I'll see you very soon here on the channel for another video. Bye!